I still remember the exact moment my world cracked open. I was thousands of miles away, chasing a dream I thought would make my parents proud, when the phone rang. My hands were shaking as I answered, expecting maybe a quick, "We miss you, sweetheart." Instead, my mother's voice came through, flat and distant, like she was reading from a script she didn't believe in herself. "The house is gone, dear. We sold it." Just like that, 7 words, and everything I had ever known, every laugh in that old kitchen, every tear dried on the front porch steps, every promise whispered under the big oak tree in the backyard, vanished. That house wasn't just bricks and wood, it was my grandmother's last gift to me, the only place on earth that still smelled like her lavender soap and fresh bread, the place where she held my hand on her final day and whispered, "This home will always be yours, no matter what." I had grown up believing my parents were my safe place. Dad with his quiet strength, fixing everything from leaky roofs to broken hearts. Mom with her warm hugs that could make any bad day disappear. They raised me in that house, told me stories about how Grandpa built it with his own 2 hands after the war. They promised again and again that when the time came, it would be mine. "We're just holding it for you," they'd say with soft smiles. So when I left for university across the country, I left my heart there too. I trusted them completely. But what I didn't know that day was that trust can be the most dangerous thing in the world. While I was buried in textbooks and late-night study sessions, scraping by on part-time jobs just to afford rent, something was happening back home. I'd call every Sunday like clockwork. Mom would chat about the garden, Dad would grunt about the weather. Everything sounded normal, until it wasn't. The calls got shorter. Their voices got tighter. I brushed it off. Maybe they were tired. Maybe money was tight again. Families go through rough patches, right? I even sent extra money home from my tiny scholarship checks, thinking it would help. For the house, I'd say, to keep it beautiful for when I come back. They took it. Every single dollar. 2 months later, I flew home for what I thought would be a joyful surprise visit. I wanted to walk through the front door and see their faces light up. Instead, I stood on the cracked sidewalk with my suitcase in hand, staring at a bright red "Sold" sign hammered into the lawn. The windows were dark. The porch swing my grandfather built was gone. Even the rose bushes Mom and I planted when I was 10 had been ripped out. My knees gave way right there on the grass. I sat in the dirt, phone pressed to my ear, calling them over and over, while tears burned down my cheeks. No answer. When they finally pulled up in their old car, they looked at me like I was the stranger. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom reached out to hug me, but I stepped back. "How could you?" My voice cracked so badly I barely recognized it. Mom's lips trembled. "Sarah, please, we had no choice, honey. The bills, the medical costs after your father's heart scare. We were drowning." Dad just stared at the ground and muttered, "It was for the family." For the family? That night, I slept in a cheap motel because my own home, my inheritance, was now someone else's. I lay on the stiff bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every promise they'd ever made. The way Grandma's hand felt in mine. The way she made me swear I would protect the house the same way she protected me. And in that cold, lonely room, something inside me shifted. The girl who always forgave, always understood, always put family first, she started to disappear. In her place rose a quiet, burning resolve, because I hadn't told them everything. I hadn't told them about the secret paper. The next morning, I drove back to what used to be my street, heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The new owners were already moving in, laughing, carrying boxes, painting over the walls that held my childhood memories. I sat in my rental car across the street and watched until I couldn't breathe anymore. Then I called the only person I still trusted, my grandmother's old lawyer, Mr. Ellis. His voice was gentle when he answered. "Sarah, I've been waiting for your call." That's when the real story started to unfold. Mr. Ellis met me at a small cafe on the edge of town. Over lukewarm coffee, he slid a thick envelope across the table. Inside was a copy of my grandmother's will, the real one, not the version my parents had shown me years ago that simply said, "The house goes to the family." This one was different. Dated just 3 weeks before she passed, it named me, only me, as the sole owner of the property. She had even added a handwritten note. "My son and daughter-in-law have struggled, but this home must stay with my granddaughter. She is the one who truly loves it." My hands shook so badly the paper rattled. "I never told them this existed." Mr. Ellis sighed. "You knew. They came to my office right after the funeral, begging me to keep it quiet, said they'd handle everything fairly." Fairly. The word tasted like poison on my tongue. I drove straight to my parents' new apartment, the tiny place they'd rented with the money from selling my future. When I walked in, Mom was folding laundry like nothing had changed. Dad was watching TV with the volume too loud. I didn't sit down. I just held up the will. "You sold my house." Silence. Mom's face went pale. "Sarah, please, we were going to give you the money. We just needed time." Dad stood up, voice rising. "Your grandmother was old, confused. That paper doesn't mean anything anymore. We're your parents. We made the decision for all of us." I felt something inside me shatter into 1,000 pieces. These were the same people who tucked me in at night, who cheered at every school play, who told me I was their greatest blessing, and they looked me in the eye for years and lied. They had taken my grandmother's final wish and thrown it away like it was nothing. The betrayal cut so deep I could barely stand. I cried there in their living room, ugly, choking sobs that came from the deepest part of my soul. "I didn't just sell a house," I whispered. "You sold me. You sold every memory, every promise, every piece of me that still lived in those walls." For weeks after that, I was broken. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Friends tried to comfort me, but how do you explain that the people who gave you life chose money over your heart? I walked past the house every day just to torture myself, watching strangers live my life. One afternoon, I saw the new owner's little girl swinging on a new playset where my tire swing used to be. That's when the pain turned into something else, something sharper, strength. I stopped crying in public. I started making calls. I met with Mr. Ellis again and again, gathering every document, every bank statement, every proof that my parents knew exactly what they were doing. They had forged signatures, hidden letters, told the real estate agent I was on board with the sale, even though I was halfway across the country. The more I learned, the clearer it became. This wasn't an accident. This was a choice. But every night when the darkness crept in, I still whispered to my grandmother's photo, "I'm so sorry I let them do this." The guilt and the rage twisted together until I couldn't tell them apart. I was angry at them, yes, but I was also furious at myself for trusting so completely. That's when the shift happened. The quiet girl who always turned the other cheek disappeared for good. In her place stood a woman who finally understood that protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. I stopped answering their calls. I stopped explaining. I simply gathered my proof like armor and prepared for war. Not the loud, screaming kind, but the calm, unstoppable kind. Because I had the one thing they never expected me to keep safe all these years: the original will, locked away in a safety deposit box since the day Grandma handed it to me with trembling fingers. She knew. Even then, she knew her own children might try to take what wasn't theirs, and now it was time for them to find out exactly how powerful one piece of paper could be. The day of the hearing arrived like a storm I had been waiting to unleash. I walked into the small courtroom wearing the simple black dress my grandmother once said made me look like I could conquer the world. My parents were already there, sitting on the other side with their lawyer. When they saw me, Mom's eyes filled with tears. Dad looked smaller somehow, like the weight of what they'd done was finally pressing down on them. Mr. Ellis presented everything calmly: bank records, emails, the original will with Grandma's shaky but clear signature. I didn't speak much at first. I just let the truth do the talking. When it was my turn, I stood up and looked straight at the people who were supposed to love me most. My voice didn't shake. This house wasn't theirs to sell. It never was theirs to sell. My grandmother gave it to me because she knew I would protect it the way she protected me. And instead of honoring that, they chose to erase me from my own story.